From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the Badass Counseling Show. Whether you are tuning in from Osaka or Omaha, Perth to Pretoria, or from Winnipeg to someplace in Florida that starts with a W, and Belgium and Denmark and everywhere. It's great to have you here. We have listeners from around the world, people, and you are one of them. And we are so pleased that you have joined us. Thank you for joining us. And us is not just me. It's not just me and the voices in my head, but it is us, the team. I've got Casey over in the booth, and she's doing something right now, not listening to me, which is pretty standard. And she would offer, there's not much to listen to, Sven. You're just yammering on and on all the time. And then I've got Rob the Rocket, who has to listen because it's his job. So I have a captive audience of one. Rob, what say ye?
I'm okay with that. And it's always exciting to be here with thunder and lightning round from all over.
I love it. Well, let's get to work. Oh, this is brutal. We're just fucking hitting home runs right out of the gate here. Wingster's wife says, "Why did my mother stay with my father after I told her he molested me every night?" Let's just let that one settle in for half a second here, people. And while you do that, let me tell you how many clients and friends and people I've counseled over the years where this exact same thing has happened. Where the child comes to the parent, tells them that they were molested by a parent. And it's not always a man that does the molesting, people, just for the record. Anyway, tells the parent, and the parent does nothing. This is as ugly as it gets. This is as ugly as it gets. Wingster's wife, "Why did my mother stay with my father after I told her he molested me every night?" When I get these types of situations in session with clients, I always go immediately to one of my go-to questions that you guys have heard me use before, and that is, I'm thinking in my head that I need to drill down to what the fear was. So this is a person trying to understand why her mother acted this way. So I have two jobs in a situation like this when I'm working with someone who has been the victim of this. Not just the victim of the sexual abuse, okay? That has to be dealt with. Indisputable, obviously. But the other piece, this person is seeking understanding. But in addition to trying to understand the mother, this person has a massive amount of feelings. Now, if the person is not acknowledging the feelings, then I've got to open up the door to help them understand. Because the truth is, Wingster's wife, if we're being fully honest right now, I guarantee you, of the roughly, I'm going to say about 8 or 10,000 people we have following right now across the 3 different platforms, I guarantee you 99.99999% of people watching and listening hate your mother. And hate your father too, don't get me wrong, for doing the molesting. Hate your mother. I'm not saying they would actually physically want to harm her, although plenty would. Because she is endorsing, she is allowing, she is forcing you to stay in a situation with a person who you tell her is molesting you. Hatred. I'm telling you, flat out fucking hatred. I hate your mom. I hate your dad for what he did. I hate your mom. Why? Because she's telling you that you have to eat it, that you have to eat the pain. She's conveying the message to you, you don't matter. You want to drive that, you want to fuck up a person's life, drive that message into their soul that they don't matter. And keep them in harm's way. Your mother kept you in harm's way. You have so much rage. You have so much fucking pain inside of you. I guarantee it. There is literally no way possible that you couldn't. No amount of saying, "Oh, I forgive," will make it go away. Bullshit. Until you flush all of that out, it's still in there. And you're spending so much life energy. And hey, I fully understand. That's a massive amount of pain, massive amount of shitstorm to have to deal with, but you need to, for your own health and happiness, truly. I beg you to address all of that and start to bring up those feelings with the help of a therapist is always best. But if you need to, you can always do it on your own. Okay, but then I want to get to your question. Your question is why? Why did my mother stay with my father after I told her he molested me every night? And this is where it gets really ugly. Really, really ugly. You want to know why? You guys have heard me say it a million times. If you're ever trying to figure out why someone is doing something that doesn't make sense, always ask yourself the question, what's the primary fear driving the behavior? Then speculate the answers and go with the biggest, hairiest, scariest ones. And so what I would do in session with a client is I would say, let's play with ideas. I'm not selling any of these ideas. Let's just play with some ideas to try to answer this question. Would your mom have feared money? Not having money? Would she have feared not being able to provide for her and you if she got you out of a situation where you're being molested by your father? Did she fear his wrath? Did she fear losing what people would say about her? I've had plenty of clients say that they stayed in an abusive marriage because their parents were telling them, you got to stay in it. Believe it or not, there are people whose children are being molested who are staying in it because they fear their own parents judging them. Or is it religion? I was literally in a conversation yesterday, no lie, I'm not lying to you, Wingster's wife, literally yesterday with a person whose very best friend did exactly this, was the mother who allowed it. And this person I was talking to is the best friend, she's a woman and her best friend, and she didn't know how she could keep being friends with her best friend. But that person was that allowed this one similar to your mother in this case. That person did it because of religion, because their religion says don't divorce ever, any reason. And so she made her daughter stay with her father. All right. What's the fear? What is the fear? What would your mother have been most afraid of in this situation? Because that's what it is. That's why she stayed. And in this case, what are the logical, reasonable ones that it likely was? Fear of not being able to provide financially, fear of your father and retribution, fear of her own parents. Believe it or not, people, that's an extraordinarily powerful one. Fear of religion. Well, one of those, or there may be one that I'm missing, but one of those is operating here, and that's why your mother stayed. And you have to begin to address the real feelings, though, and the fucking rage and the fucking sorrow and the hatred. I'm telling you, I mean, that's as bad as it gets. That's as bad as it gets. Rob, comment?
A couple things. How many times in your practice or listening to the questions has someone said, I was molested every day?
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And the thing is, one of the things that we also go into, Rob, and if I had time with you, I would, Wingster's wife, but one of the things we go into is, did the other parent know? Did the other parent know? And this is a really tricky one. Now, in this case, you went to your mother, so there's no way she couldn't have known. She didn't want to admit the truth. She didn't want to look at it. She didn't want to believe it. Maybe it was easier for her to basically say, you're not a believable source. You're a non-credible source. So I'm not going to believe you. And she's saying that probably because she doesn't want to have to confront her husband. She doesn't want to do the work. She's afraid of X, Y, or Z. And it's her own fears that kept her, not only taught you your word, your voice doesn't matter, taught you don't matter, but she kept you in harm's way. What is job number one as a parent? It's not to feed your child. It's not. It's to protect them, right? In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what's the first need? Heat, warmth. That's the very first one before even food. Well, what is warmth? If a child is born and it is not put in blankets, or if it is just left, if you have a baby and you just have a baby out in the middle of the desert, that baby will be dead in 24 hours. Why? Heat. Lack of heat, too much heat, but lack of heat at night. You have a baby, it needs heat. Well, what is heat? Heat is protection from cold. The very first job as a parent is to protect your child and to emotionally protect them as well, just as an aside. And in this case, your mother did not protect you. She kept you in harm's way as long as you lived under that roof. And I'm sorry, I fucking hate her for it. I hate her. I'm not even going to fucking mince words on that. It's horrible. And I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Sven Tracy says, we were told not to speak about such things. And Darlene says, I love your help and all, but I've suggested my family buy your book and listen to you. But mom says, don't tell them that.
Oh, of course. Mom doesn't want you to fucking do work on yourself. Mom doesn't want you helping your family heal because in all likelihood, your mom benefits from what? From the family myth. And the family myth is we have no problems. In every family, and it's not okay. So now I'm moving out of the question about sexual abuse. Now it's any family. Most families have a family myth. All right. Most dysfunctional families, especially, have a family myth, and the myth always protects the person at the top of the food chain. Maybe the myth is our family exists. Don't upset mom. Is basically the family myth. That is the family story. Or maybe the family myth is actually secrets. But there's some family myth, some family narrative, and everybody, because it starts at a very young age, and everybody is expected to buy into that myth, buy into that story, and engage in whatever needs to be engaged in. Maybe it's, outside of these walls, we have no problems. Put on a good face, but behind these walls, it's a nut house. Dad's crazy. Dad's just fucking off the deep end all the time, and he's abusing us. Whatever it is, it always exists to protect the person at the top of the food chain. So if you try to reveal the family myth or you try to heal yourself, you will not fit in that family system anymore, and they will do everything to silence you. You will even have siblings turn on you. Why? Because they are afraid of the person at the top of the food chain. Because the person at the top of the food chain, guess what? Is usually a parent. And what does every kid want? A parent's love. Yes, even into 60s, 70s, 80-year-olds. I've counseled clients in their 80s, no lie, still wanting the love of a parent who's been dead for maybe 40 years. That's how powerful that child love is. All right, next question. I just want to address one thing here. Lexi brings up an interesting point, and I just want to play with it a little bit. Lexi says over here on TikTok, my mom grew up in the system, which not fully sure what that means, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to address a later point. My mother grew up in the system, had a terrible child, and had me at 16. She tried her best, though. And I always struggle, and that's fine. Lexi, it's your life. I don't know anything about your story. So I'm not commenting on your story at this point. I'm commenting on simply that phrase. So anybody else could have rendered that phrase, and I would have offered it. So again, I'm not commenting on the specifics of your situation. Just that phrase, my parents did their best. Okay. I generally offer to most people, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. If they allowed abuse, if they engaged in abuse, if they caused pain, there's always better. There's always better. I mean, think about this alone. Do you know that Oprah Winfrey went on TV? She had her show, I believe it was late 80s by the time she has her show. Phil Donahue had been on before that. All of these shows are on. And what are they talking about? Families, abuse, childhood, shit like that. All right, so that's been in the public conversation, popular culture for almost 50 years. Okay, let alone there have been parenting books. I was raised on a parenting book that was written in the 40s, and it's now in its like 56th edition. Dr. Spock's child and child care.
Baby and child care.
Baby and child care. I was a Spock baby, right? My parents were active. Did they still make mistakes? You're damn right. And they owned them. See, parenting doesn't stop at 18, right? When they're 25, when they're 35, you need to be willing to clean up the mistakes that you made. All right. But the point is, this notion, trying their best, the reason I don't like this comment when it comes to parenting is two things. One, it exonerates the parent very often. The adult child is jumping to exoneration of the parent before they're actually getting out their own pain. Before the adult child is getting out their own pain, because they don't want to believe the parent is bad, or they just feel bad for the parents, or honor your father and mother, but you have to get out your pain, or just jumping to, oh, they did their best, just packs your pain down further. It's like jumping to forgiveness before you've actually healed. You can forgive all you want, but do your healing first, like getting out all the pain and the fears and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. But one more thing on this notion of they tried their best, or my parents did their best. And again, Lexi, I'm not speaking to your specific situation. I'm just taking that phrase that you used, okay? So please don't take this personally, because it's not. I'm just using that phrase, and I could have gotten that on anybody else is saying that. And it's simply this. I like to ask people this question. Did your parent, whichever parent we might be talking about, maybe it's both, but let's just pick one. Did your mom, let's say, did she treat her best friend the way she treated you? Or did she treat her boss at work the way she treated you? Now, most people are saying, oh, no, hell no. No, she was horrible to me. Or no, she was so much nicer to the ladies at church. She kept up an image, and she, or no, my mom did volunteer work, and she was so nice to people, and I saw her, and so, so you're telling me how she treated you was different from how she treated other people whom she treated very, very well, whether it's a boss or a friend or what have you. Yeah, well, yeah, Sven, of course. So then your mother didn't do her best. And they're like, what? I said, well, by your mother treating someone else differently, by your mother treating someone else better, you are acknowledging that she had the capacity to act better. Oh, fuck me. So she chose to treat me like shit because she obviously chose to treat someone else better. Therefore, she had the ability, she had the knowledge, and therefore her treating me poorly was a fucking choice. She didn't do her best. Boom. All right, next question. How do I go about meeting my child's mother's new boyfriend that she cheated on me with? In other words, how do I go about meeting my ex's new boyfriend that she cheated on me with? Presumably, you are having to meet the new boyfriend because the new boyfriend is interacting with your child. That's what I have to imagine. And the question is, are you wanting to? If you don't want to, don't. If you are doing it because, you feel it's in the best interest of the child, and so we're all on the same page, and you're wondering, how do I go about meeting with it? Before you meet with this person, the mere fact that you're asking this question says you're obviously emotionally charged over this. She cheated with this guy on me. Okay, so you have pain. I guarantee it. Probably anger as well. Right. You need to start flushing all that crap out of you before any fucking meeting that you have. Your anger, your pain, your sadness, your sense of betrayal, your rage at him, whatever it might be. And you need to flush all of that out. But here's the thing. Because the truth is, any feelings you have towards him, you have towards or have had towards her. Now, this is a tricky little thing, and I talk about this in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, but I also talk about it in a previous book, I Steal Wives, on infidelity. And one of the things I talk about is it's far easier for someone who's been cheated on to blame your ex's partner that they cheated with than it is to blame your ex. Think about that. The people say, oh, I can't believe that woman cheated with my boyfriend. I hate that woman. Well, how do you feel towards your boyfriend? Oh, I'm mad at him. But, gosh, But they're always more mad, or very often more mad at the person they cheated with. And for me personally, I call bullshit on that one. You want to know why? Because it's easier to blame the other person because you don't want to believe that your mate cheated on you. And especially if you're considering taking the mate back, you're going to blame the person they cheated with as if that person is in the greater wrong. No, the person who's in the greater wrong is the person who betrayed you. The person you don't know, well, they don't have a fucking obligation to you. Am I excusing their behavior? Absolutely not. But I think you're using it as an excuse. I think you're using it as an excuse to not have to look at the fact that this person claimed they love me and then they stabbed me right in the heart and they twisted it. All right, so how do you go about meeting your child's mother's new boyfriend that she cheated on me with? You have to flush out all your feelings in advance. Otherwise, you're just going to be this bundle of fucking feelings, and it's going to be a fucking shit show when you do meet the person. Or you want to hear a word that's going on, or you're going to make snide comments, or you're going to be a fucking angry dick or whatever. If you're meeting with this person, on one hand, if the child's not involved and your ex is now off with a boyfriend, you would have no need to meet the boyfriend that she cheated on you with. There'd be no need, right? And so who gives a shit? I mean, if our relationship is done, she can date whoever she wants. You still have your feelings, get your feelings out, your life goes on. Who gives a fuck who she dates? But in this case, you're wanting to and perhaps needing to because you share a child. That means you need to be able to get along. If you're really doing this for the child, and if you're not doing it for the child, then why the fuck are you meeting the person in the first place? If you're going to meet this person so that it'll be good for everyone with regard to parenting the child, well, then if it's really for the child, then get your fucking feelings out of here because your feelings are going to fuck it up and then it's going to fuck it up for your kid. So you have to heal yourself. You got fucked over. You have legitimate pain and anger and hurt and betrayal and disappointment and everything else inside of you. And you need to get all those feelings out of you using journaling, writing letters to that guy, writing letters to your ex, all of which you do not send, flushing it all out. Because if it really is for the child, if it's not for the child, you would have no reason to meet this person. If it's for the child, then you have an obligation to get out all your feelings. Otherwise, you are going to fuck up this. They may fuck it up on their side, but you have no control over that. You do have control over whether or not you fuck up this situation that is for your parent, for your child, and you need to get your shit out. All right, much more to come. Right after this.
I came across the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, on badasscounseling.com. I was trying to gain some insight into my past experiences and how they are shaping my present. Sick of being miserable all the time, and I wanted to do the work. I didn't know how. Sven's book made it approachable. He had gone through a lot in life, and I liked his perspective. I started looking forward to the new podcasts on Thursdays and Sundays. I realized I wasn't alone, and we can all use a little help from Sven.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
And we are back. A few quickies here. Mark says, how many letters do we need to write to flush that out? As many as it takes to flush it out. You don't gauge it by the amount of work done. You do it by, are you seeing the results? In other words, if you still have feelings, you need to keep journaling and writing letters that you don't send. It's that simple. Katie asks, does this man have a parenting book? I do not have a book specifically on parenting. However, I do have several chapters on parenting in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. As well, and that's the book that's become an international bestseller on Amazon and so forth. As well, I do address many parenting questions and issues in the daily meditational / inspirationals. This is a 366-day sort of thing. And several of those days are dedicated to parenting type issues. So yes, There's a Hole in My Love Cup and Badass Wisdom. Tristan Hagen says, what about reconciliation? Tristan, I'm all for reconciliation of relationships. I really am. But I have it written right on my website and on the counseling page. And I tell people, couples that come to work with me, very often if they're coming to a therapist, they're coming, why? Because they want to reconcile. They want to sort out their problems. But I make it very clear on the counseling page and to them explicitly, I am not here to save your marriage. If you want a counselor whose primary directive is to save your marriage, I am not the guy for you. What I am here to do when I work with couples is to help two individuals. I work with them separately before I ever bring them together. I am here to help two individuals become their most authentic self, each, and then look at each other and say, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person? And the other person saying, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person? And then making that decision. Because you have a bankrupt, emotionally relationship because of old versions of yourself. So until I help you become new you, new Tristan in your case, until I help you become new Tristan and help your partner become new Susie, you are incapable of making the decision of whether or not you want to spend the rest of your life because you don't know who they are. Furthermore, you're not operating from your fullest and truest and most authentic self. Therefore, reconciliation is not my goal. Truth is my goal. Two authentic selves is my goal. And then the decision is effortless for you. Then you'll be able to feel what your decision is, if it is in fact reconciliation. And this is why couples are usually scared to work with me. They'll come to me and they'll say, Sven, we want to work with you, definitely. And yes, we'll work separately before you bring us together. But we're scared. And one of them will say, I'm scared that, you're going to help us see that we don't want to be together. I'm scared, but I just want to know the truth, Sven. It's gotten bad enough. I just want, not the truth of like, did he cheat on me? Or is she, truly a blah, blah, blah. No, just what is our truth together? But you can't know your real deepest truth unless you know your deepest self. But yeah, I love it when people reconcile. God bless them. I mean, there's obviously love there, but that's not my ultimate driver. Furthermore, the reason as a little aside for the many psychiatrists and therapists who follow me, as you well know, I'm going to tell you, this is sort of an inside joke for therapists and it's simple, and clergy and so forth. I don't bring couples together because it's not fun. Oh my God, it's a flying shit show within 20 fucking minutes. And you're trying to solve their fucking problems. And most therapists, it's a 50-minute session, right? So you're just in this flying shit show and you have no history on either of them. So how do you get a history of two individuals and attempt to solve their problems in a couple, which takes, when you're doing individual counseling, the complex calculus of one person's individual problems has infinite permutations. But then you take two individuals with that complex calculus and you've got infinity times two. And you're going to bring them into a room and you're going to start solving their problems in 50 minutes? Bullshit. It's a fucking joke. That's why I keep them fucking separate. Let my fucking brain try to unravel what's going on here with Susie, and my brain would unravel what's going on with Paul and sort some of that out. And it doesn't have to take forever, but mother of God, to throw them into a room, it's just like, oh yeah, oh, this is a great idea. Oh, this is fucking brilliant. Oh yeah, this is working. Fuck me, no way.
Sven, as my divorce lawyer said to my soon-to-be ex-wife's lawyer while we were all sitting together, we could solve this in 20 minutes, but it's going to take a year.
That's it. That's an honest lawyer right there, because you guys just want to fight and all that shit. Oh, God dang. All right. Next question. Tracy asks, how do you deal with an ex who constantly posts about you and says he's the victim? Tracy, I'm going to hit you with a hard one, all right? What the fuck do you care? And believe me, I've been left and I've had someone, do similar and so forth. And so I get it. I get the pain. I'm not trying to minimize your pain, but in the end, you are letting this person control your happiness. They still own you. If you do the work of healing your own feelings and purging out your feelings and all that goes with it and continue to do the work, do you know what's going to happen? You're less and less going to care. They're trying to make themselves look good, and they're trying to make themselves look good at your expense. But you know what their added benefit is? And they know they're doing this. They also get the added benefit of hurting you. They want to hurt you. And they will continue to do it as long as it does hurt you. So what makes more sense, rather than obsessing over what do I do with them or say to them, what you do is you heal your own shit so that it doesn't fucking bother you anymore. And you think, I could never do that. I'm so angry and I'm so hurt. But it's like, no, you can if you actually do the fucking work. And it's ugly work. But the more you go in and flush out all of your sense of betrayal and all of your rage and so forth, betrayal and rage and sadness and so forth, the more you flush all of that, the less and less you'll care and you'll finally get on with your life. But this person fucking owns you. Why? Because they know it's hurting you. And you have control over whether or not it hurts you by getting all that pain out. All right, next question. Rob, you got one, or if not?
Something interesting to me. Check this out. Seth says, I've listened to your Love Cup book on audio. Now I'm starting to read the physical book and do the journaling. I'm 2 months into a new relationship and wondering, is it a good idea for the two of us to do this together, but the journaling separately, then reflect back as to build the best long-term relationship possible? Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, no, that's a great one, Seth. First of all, your first note, I listened to it once, and then I'm going back through it, and I'm doing the questions the second time around. I have a lot of people who do that. And let me tell you, folks, and a lot of people don't want, and I'm not saying this is your case, Seth, but a lot of people don't want to do those questions, let alone do them in writing. They don't want to. They just want to take in the book. Right? Why? Because they get to basically, I think it's chapter 1, like one of the first fucking questions, like, oh shit, I don't want to go into this. Because it's like, what's the biggest trauma of your life? Write it out. And people are like, some people are like, well, I don't know what my biggest trauma is, or there are too many. And I say, just pick one, or pick what's the smallest trauma of your life. Just pick, start. But so many people say that question, they're like, I don't want to fucking touch that. No, I'll just read the book. I'll just listen to the book. I don't want to do the actual work. And so some people, they deliberately just don't want to touch this shit. And it's like, folks, that's where the healing happens, by you having the courage to go into the shit. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with you, Seth. Some people just want to take it in first and then go back and do the work. Nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But your question is, should I have my girlfriend do it and we do it together, and then we do our journaling separate and then we talk about it together? If she's on board with that, you can definitely do that. I am all for journaling separately. Definitely. I'm all for having your own separate copies, simply because then you can dog ear and you can highlight the shit you want to highlight, and you don't have to share shit you don't want to share. But also, it's your book, and it's like you're making this book speak to you. I have any books that I own, there's dog-eared pages, and I circle shit, and I have a yellow highlighter for important points. I have a pink highlighter or orange for super important points. Then I'll just open the book and go to those. Right? So I'm all for you each owning your own copy, but here's the thing. The sharing your journaling with each other has always got to be optional, and you've always got to reserve the right to not share things. Because sometimes we just need to let our own stuff incubate, or sometimes we just don't want to share it, or we don't want to share it yet. That's okay. I mean, you guys have been together 2 months. You don't have to rush to be sharing all your deepest stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff I'm still learning with my partner after 10 years. Or stuff that I'm finally realizing for myself, or finally comfortable sharing after 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So there's no rush to force trust. But here's the thing. If she doesn't want to do it, that alone is a tell. If you're trying to force her, if it goes from a suggestion on your part to a pushing harder on your part, you got to look at your own shit because you have an agenda there, which is likely driven by fear. And sometimes people respond to heavy pushing by heavy truculence, right? Resistance to doing it. And so, yes, I am all in favor of that. That is such smart shit, especially if someday you're going to have kids together. I don't know how old you are, but especially pre-parenting. Adults doing this fucking work on themselves, man. And what this could do for your relationship, Seth, it's genius, man. It's brilliant. That's really smart. But don't force it. If she doesn't want to do it, that's okay. Let it go. Work on yourself. And you may discover that you don't want a relationship with her anymore. Or you may discover, hey, it's great, whatever. But no, I'm all in favor of your idea. Bonus points to you for that idea. All right, next question. All right, over on TikTok. Is it psychological abuse to tell your kid, quote, if not you, it'd be me, end quote, in regard to stepdad beating the daughter? Now, Zero Chance does not say whether or not she's the parent or the daughter. I'm betting it's the daughter. But I want to read that again. Is it psychological abuse to tell your kid, quote, if it's not you, it would be me, end quote, with regard to the stepdad beating the daughter? Is it psychological abuse? Oh, yeah. But just as bad, it is physical abuse because you are allowing a child to be beaten. Right? If you're the parent and you know that the step parent is physically abusing your child and you do not end it and get the fuck out of there, get the child the fuck out of there. If you are not doing it, you are in fact sanctioning it. You are in fact giving it an imprimatur. You're getting it the good housekeeping seal of approval. And for a whole lot of people, that's the greater crime. Now, whether it's a greater or lesser crime isn't the issue, but for a whole lot of people, that is the greater crime because you are allowing it. And for you to say, if not you, it'd be me. I understand situations of abuse. Oftentimes a parent is afraid to get out or they have to develop a plan. Yes, develop a plan. No, I get that. And sometimes it can't be right that exact second. I get that because you're terrified for your own life, something like that. But the way you're presenting it here, Zero Chance, is basically the parent is telling, well, obviously it's the mom because the mom is saying, hey, if he weren't beating you, he'd be beating me. So tough shit, take your medicine. I'm not going to let him beat you or beat me. So what the mother is fundamentally saying is, I'm more important than you. I am okay with him beating you as long as he doesn't beat me. And that's the type of parent that should not get to keep their child, either one of them. Where's the real father in this, by the way? Does the real father know this is happening? The biological father? Where's the biological father? Does he know about it? And why hasn't he gotten you the fuck out of there? You do not belong in that situation. And yes, and maybe this happened when you were a kid, and so you're reliving those memories and you're trying to decide whether or not it's abuse. Yes, that is absolutely and unequivocally abuse of your soul, abuse of your person. If you had a parent say to you, well, hey, if it's not you, it'd be me. Because your parent is saying, fuck you, you don't matter. I matter more than you, and I'm not here to protect you. It's horrific. That's heinous shit. All right, next question. Please help me understand a side comment you mentioned on an older reel. You stated that self-isolation may help short-term, but it doesn't work long-term. I'm liking isolation currently. It's peaceful. So what pitfalls are ahead? Okay, that's a fucking love that question. Love that question. I don't remember the reel, but I can speculate as to what the hell I was saying and what my point was. Sometimes we have to isolate to heal, right? Okay. Also, sometimes, a lot of times in life, isolation or being alone feels great. I personally am highly, as my girlfriend knows, as Rob knows, I'm highly protective of my alone time. I spend a lot of time alone. Why? It just rejuvenates my batteries, my energy batteries, but also my creativity comes from being alone, largely. All right, so I do that for me, and I'm very disciplined about that, right? And say no to people who need help at times because I just have to keep charging my batteries, right? Okay. And I say, but it may help short term, but it doesn't work long term. I said that in previous reel. The part that doesn't work long term, Okay, there's nothing wrong with being alone for the rest of your life, choosing that. There is nothing wrong with that. So I'm drawing a distinction here. I'm showing the nuance. Nothing wrong. If you enjoy being alone, there's nothing wrong with that. And I say, God bless you. You know, I can put my ficus plant here, and I'm going to have 2 cats. I'm not going to just have a dog. I'm sick of dogs. I'm going to have 2 cats, and I'm going to do my life my way. You know, whatever it is. I love that. It's beautiful. The only thing the distinction I was drawing in that situation is this notion of self-isolation. It could imply, this is the nuance, it could imply I'm staying alone because I'm afraid of people. Now, that's different from I'm choosing to be alone because I enjoy it. But someone choosing to be alone, yes, they may enjoy it, but they fear people. That's a slightly different thing because you're doing it out of fear fundamentally. And that is not a long-term solution to have your life driven by fear, because that means you've got this extraordinarily powerful feeling in your life that is overwhelming you. And it's causing you to create a life based on fear. And one of my root core beliefs is that happiness and fear are inversely correlated. The more fear you have, the less happiness you're going to have. And the more your happiness grows, the more fear is sorted through and purged out of your system. All right. So you have to be purging that out of you. So if you're choosing it because it's just for joy and there is no fear of being out in the world, God bless you, go for it. Praise the Lord, amen, whatever people say, I don't know. But if you're doing it out of fear, then that says your life is being driven by fear, which means whoever hurt you and caused you to feel fear still owns you to some greater or large degree, because they're causing you to, even if they're not in your life anymore, their fears that they cause in you, the pain that they cause is in fact contributing to how you've constructed your life, which means they are still basically running you. And that, when you look at it that way, it's like, well, fuck, I don't want that. All right, next question.
Sven, here's a familiar one. Mm-hmm. It's a sad one, but this seems to be the theme today. Clara says, how do I get over losing my fiance? He was in an accident while we were planning a wedding, and I presume he died. I've been in relationships since, and I can't open up. I can't get over the pain of losing my best friend. I've journaled a lot, but it still feels like yesterday that I lost him.
First of all, I'm sorry. Just the dreams, just the death of the dream. Think about that. Not even just the death of the person. I shouldn't say just the death of the person. You know what I mean. But on top of it, the death of the dream. And when dreams die, people, that's its own separate pain. Maybe you got fired from a career that you loved, or your business went under after working at it. It was your baby for 20 years, whatever it is, the death of a dream. Have you been journaling on that? All the things you were excited about, a life together, and maybe kids or maybe no kids, and traveling the world, buying a sailboat, traveling the world, whatever it was, all those dreams, you need to be journaling on that. But what's fascinating in your comment is you said, I don't open up in relationships. Now we're getting into something else that you need to be journaling. And by the way, in your journaling, you should be writing letters to your ex, and not just the loved ones and the missing him and the longing, but also the anger. Journal on what you might be angry at him about. And there's no way it's a human interaction where there hasn't been anger. Have you journaled all of that out? And the things you would want to say to him, and so forth. And I'm sure you've done a lot of that. But there's also oftentimes when someone dies, we don't want to look at the anger because we feel like it's dishonorable to that person. But going back to this other thing, you need to be journaling on the death of the dream. But you said, I don't open up in relationships. That's fear. You're afraid of connecting. You're afraid of getting too close. Why? Because what if they leave you too, whether by death or just rejection or what have you? And that's an indicator that the pain was so bad of the previous one, understandably so, don't get me wrong. That pain was so bad that you can't bear the thought of going through it again. So I'm not even going to go down the road of opening up, because the more I open up, the more vulnerable I become to getting hurt later. Right. So that pain is still in you. Well, how do I get it out then, Sven? What do you recommend? It's digging deeper, and you should be journaling on fear as well. The fear of feeling that way. You have feelings inside of you that you still haven't fully plumbed. There are greater feelings in there of the pain and the fear. And as I said, the death of the dream, because then you will start to open up more and more because you will be less and less afraid. But fear is running your life right now. Absolutely. And that's why you're staying shut down. And good on you for not taking the relationships any further, hopefully, because you're not present. You're not open. And I mean, that's the shit that corrupts relationships when someone's not opening up, right? Where you're sort of halfway in, and that's not an authentic relationship, and it won't last, or it will last and it'll just be crap. And so the onus is on you there is something deeper in there. And I would want to ask you, my question, if we were, in having a beer together, is I'd want to ask you, what's your greatest fear in all of this? And I guarantee it's something around the idea of feeling all this pain again. And I guarantee there's still sadness inside of you. More that has to come out. You have to understand it. In the cause of death of a person, death of a dream, all of that the grief lasts as long as it lasts. And all we can do is keep purging. And the more and allowing the feelings out, not just the words on paper, but the feelings themselves. Because when you have a loss that great, your chest, your soul, your heart, they need to not just grieve, they need to heave, H-E-A-V-E, heave. You need to have so much heaving that the pain is still there, but the tears that were supposed to make the pain go away, the tears have dried up. You have no more tears, but the pain is still there. And then keep heaving. That's how big these losses are. Next question. I've got one right here. Oh, Rob,
by the way, to underscore your point, Clara says, I'm in a relationship now that is crap.
Yeah.
She's not ready.
No, you're not ready, Clara. And I'm not saying that as a put down or anything like that. I'm just saying you openly admitted that you're not opening up. Well, Clara, come on. You and I both, I'm sure the companionship is nice. I get that. But you're not ready. And the mere fact that you've gone into a relationship, if you know enough that you know you need to be journaling, then you're conscious enough to know then to see that you went into that relationship to avoid feelings. Right? You know how important journaling is and to healing. So therefore, you know how important healing is. Therefore, by you jumping into a relationship, even if it's been 2 years, you're still jumping in if you have unhealed feelings. And you're doing it to avoid something. So my question to you would be, and I'm going to move on to the next question here, but my question that I would want you to journal on is, what is the primary feeling you're trying to avoid by being in a relationship? That's what you need to be journaling on. All right, next question. I like this one. This is a bit of a lighter one. I mean, it's heavy, don't get me wrong, but after the questions we've had today, this is a little lighter fare. This isn't a amuse-bouche, right? This is a bit of sorbet to cleanse the palate, whatever. Kelly Shepard says, my mom likes me to call her, but never, capital letters, never calls me. If I don't call, she uses it against me. Do I call? Kelly, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to pose it I would pose it as a question in counseling. So I guess I'll pose it as a question to you. What is it you still want from your mom? And you may say, I don't want anything from her. Bullshit. Because you're tolerating behavior from someone that doesn't feel good. I mean, you don't say it, but you might as well flat out and say, what the fuck? She expects me to call. She likes me to call, but never calls me, which implies you want her to call you, or at least you want reciprocity. If I'm going to invest in you, I want you to invest in me. And so you're saying you want her to call you. But what's underneath it is you still want some sort of relationship with your mother. And you want it on mutually beneficial, kind, considerate terms. And mom's not giving it. She's saying, fuck you. You exist to serve me. That is what your mother is saying. She has given you the double middle finger and she's saying, fuck you. Call me. I'm not going to call you. I don't have to do anything. You're not important. This is what she's saying. These are the underlying messages. You guys have heard me talk about them. The underlying messages, or as my mother used to say, the message behind the message. This is what is being conveyed to the adult child. Fuck you. You don't matter. You're less important. You exist to meet my needs. And folks, what have you heard me say a million times? Children don't exist for parents. Parents exist for children. But your mom is acting as if you exist for her. And you even say, if I don't call, she used it against me. So she's clearly manipulating fear and anger to get you to do what she wants. And it doesn't feel good. That's how fucking mean your mom is. She's conveying the message, you don't matter, I matter. You exist to serve me, and if you don't serve me, I'm going to fucking torture you. Literally, I mean, that's what she's saying. And you're saying, do I call? Honestly? Do whatever the fuck you want. That's not the problem. The problem is you haven't named what it is you're still wanting for your mother. And I guarantee you it's some derivative of I want a relationship with her where she acknowledges what she's done to me and where she cares about me and gives me the love I've always wanted. And then I would ask you the question, well, then what? And then as I drill down further along those then whats, it's eventually going to be because then I would feel whole. Then I would feel free. Then I could finally be myself. So you're basically what you're really wanting deep down is confirmation from your mother that you matter. That you are loved, that you are lovable. Why? Because then you would stop making bad decisions or having bad relationships or hating on yourself or self-loathing or believing you're the problem or you're not good enough. You're wanting your mother to heal the very damage that she caused. It's like you're in a prison cell and you believe that your mom is the only person that possesses the key, when in fact, the key has been in your own pocket the whole time. And the key that's in your pocket is if you drill down to what it is you're still wanting from your mother. And if you begin to address the realization, and from your picture, it's teeny tiny, but you're at least 30, I'm going to say. You have a 30-year pattern of behavior, minimum, from your mother saying, I matter more than you do, which the child interprets as I don't matter. And your mom is fundamentally saying that. You don't matter. This is just why she never calls. You matter only to serve my needs. So you ask the question, do you call? Doesn't matter. Call, don't call, it doesn't matter. What matters is, are you going to actually do the work of drilling down to what you've been wanting your whole life and you have a 30-year pattern of behavior or longer indicating she has no interest in giving that, but you're still standing there wanting it. And it's like the example of if I have a $20 bill in my hand and I have an 8-year-old boy and I'm 6'4" and I raise my hand over my head, that hand is now at about 7.5 or 8 feet. And I say to that kid, this $20, I will hand it to you. I will give it to you if you just grab it. And the kid starts jumping up and down or maybe tries to climb on me and I shove him off of me and he can't get it. And he gets mad and he's ornery or sad or whatever. Why? Because I have something he wants. Anytime somebody has something that you want, they have the power to make you miserable. And you are still wanting something from your mother and she's not giving it and it hurts. And until you realize you're never going to get it and until you do the work of healing yourself, you're going to continue to do whatever she wants and live your life for her. But it means letting go of that which you really want and beginning to love yourself. All right. Gimp says, why am I scared of commitment and having kids? Because you have unhealed shit from your own past. And scared of commitment implies I don't want to get too close because I fear opening up. We sort of dealt with this on an earlier question. If I open up more and more, I'm afraid you're going to leave me. But also, is it possible you just like your life of being single and you don't really want to commit to anything? And if that's the case, then don't. It's okay. But you said you add on and having kids. So that implies there's a responsibility or there are obligations that you don't want to take on with your life. And I would offer then, I would ask the question, if we were in counseling, I would ask the question, is part of your fear of having a child and not being a good parent or harming your child or something along those lines? And if so, then at some point you have to go in and begin to explore your own feelings of ineptitude and inability and explore where that came from. And then all the feelings of, you know, the parenting that you received, how it hurt you, but then how it also colored your own vision. And I have plenty of clients over the years who had bad parents or they experienced a lot of pain or hurt in childhood and they fear they'd be a horrible parent or I don't even know how to parent. And that's an indication that you've got a lot of pain and fears inside of you from your childhood that you need to get out of you to begin to see clearly. And sometimes some of the very, very best parents are people who had crappy childhoods, but do the actual healing work. And just for the record, people, parenting tip of the day. Some of you have heard me say it before, parenting tip of the day. If you had bad parents or parents did a lot of harm, caused a lot of pain, and you take the parenting tack, the parenting approach of, I'm going to do the opposite of what my parents did, it's a horrible approach. Horrible. Do you want to know why? But you say, well, my parents never told me I love you and they never gave me affection. I've had clients who literally did the opposite, were constantly inundating, showering their kids with praise and attention. I have a client, regular client, checks in about every 6 months, and he got that from his mom. He says, I stopped believing my mom's words when I was about 8. Why? She was just constantly overpraising me. And I knew it was bullshit. I knew it was just bullshit. She was doing it for some other reason when I was 8 that I couldn't understand, but I stopped trusting her. Or some kids at a very young age will say, where it's just too much, and they start pushing you away. We think kids have an infinite need for touch and praised words, but many don't. And in fact, enough is enough. And somewhere in the child it registers. They don't know the reason why, but it registers as this doesn't feel right. And what the real reason why is the parent's doing it for themselves, either to get the actual affection or to prove I'm not my mom, or to prove I'll be a better parent than dad. So doing the opposite of what your parents did means, ultimately, it means this: you are still taking your cues from them. You're not parenting deliberately. You're just doing the opposite, which means they are still the origin source of where you're going to discern how to parent, or in this case, how not to parent. Try reading a book instead. I've got a good recommendation. First of all, I have several chapters on parenting in There's a Hole in My Love Cup, but there's a great parenting book called Scream-Free Parenting by Hal Runkle. Scream-Free Parenting, that's a good one to start with. Baby and Child Care, the one that I was raised on, by Dr. Benjamin Spock, and it's in like its 40th edition or whatever. Great one. There are lots of great ones out there. All right, next question. You got one for me, Rob, or what?
All right. My husband and I both recently got diagnosed with depression. Mine is postpartum depression. We're both working on ourselves, but my husband has now developed an emotional connection with another woman. He says they're just friends. What are the boundaries?
Well, my question is, how do you know it's emotional connection if they're just friends? How do you know that? Has he said that? Have you seen them interacting together? Does it seem like more than? Let's start with the fact that you obviously have feelings, and it feels fear. You have fear and great discomfort. And it would be easy to make a blanket statement like, hey, any man who has, an emotional connection to another woman, it's bad news. And the truth is, I would actually make that statement: an emotional connection to another woman. If you know for fact that is true, I'd be all over that like flies on shit, man. There's no way. That's just like tempest in the teapot there, man. No, you don't get to have. I mean, if it's actually true, if it's not just your guess or your fear, although you listen to your instincts too. But if you have evidence that it is an emotional connection, yeah, I'd shut that shit down. But what does it say that he's beginning to do the work? And he's having an emotional connection. What that says to me, if I'm being really honest, what that says to me is that he's potentially, if he's really doing the work on himself, he's potentially discovering his authentic self isn't happy with you. Not saying you're a bad person, but he is discovering, I don't want to be with this person anymore. Now, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you. But sometimes we find ourselves and realize we want something different. And that's just a brutal realization. But the fucked up part is, if that's true and he's not just working on getting out of the relationship first, then he's fundamentally stringing along two people, one who he claims loyalty to. And that's fucked up bullshit right there. In all honesty, you got to have some serious conversations with him about this very thing and watch his behavior. Does he deflect, defend, dodge, or deny? And if so, there's something going on. Because if we're just a real, totally above board relationship, there would be no need to deflect, defend, dodge, or deny. I'm going to take two more questions, and we're going to call it a day, folks. All right, here we go. And this is a great follow-up to that one that we just had. What if having deep conversations pushes the person away? Well, in all honesty, that relationship's toast. All right, because you're wanting deep conversations, and they are not. And it's significant enough for you that you're acting on it and you're seeing a behavior that obviously doesn't feel good. The question would be, well, it doesn't necessarily mean the relationship is done if the deep conversations aren't that important to you. It just randomly happens. They don't like deep conversations and they push you away from it. But if deep conversations are significant for you, like conversations about things, conflict you guys have had, and that person doesn't want to do it, I mean, in all honesty, that relationship's, it's done. It's DOA, man. And, it pushes a person away. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to let go because you got to move on with your fucking life and find someone who values the very thing that you value, because you can't make them have the deep conversations if they don't want it. All right. My sister, whom I cut off for bullying, wants to come over. Should I respond? The mere fact that you say should says that you almost feel obligated because she's requesting it. It almost it implies to me you don't want to. And my question would be, what do you want to do? And I'm betting your answer is, I don't want to let her over. Then just say no. No, thank you. Or just don't even respond. You're not obligated. You obviously cut the person off for a reason. I'm wondering why you're even second guessing the decision you make. If she bullies you and now she wants to come over, she's basically bullying you again because she's preying on your feelings, or you're feeling like you have some sense of obligation. That's a form of bullying. It's much more subtle, but it's still bullying. You cut the person off for a reason, maintain your boundaries, move on with your life. I mean, it's that simple. Otherwise, you're conveying the message, shit, I don't really know what I want. Gee, I'll give you another chance. And if you're giving her another chance, it's because you're still wanting something, likely wanting a relationship. All right. And, if this person wants a relationship, then you can do it. But if they don't want a fucking relationship, if they're just going to hurt you, then why would you give them another chance? But if you want to do it, I think you're doing it out of some, failed sense of obligation. We're going to take one more question. Okay. For someone who has dissociated from emotion and feeling their entire life, how do you allow yourself to feel and quit running? And then Genevieve says, I hope Sven answers this. He just retired from the Navy, is trying to dig into his shit, but is struggling hard with this, he being my husband. So I've got two things going on. I'm going to just bang them real light and quick here. For someone who's dissociated from emotion and feeling their entire life, how do you allow yourself to feel and quit running? Start small. You guys have heard me say it before. Do you literally have no feelings? So when someone cuts you off, or when someone says something that hurts your feelings, do you experience a little bit of sadness, or do you experience a little bit of anger? Do you have any feeling whatsoever, or just with regard to heavy stuff from your past? Because I'm willing to bet you do have some feeling. Otherwise, why would you hang around with certain people rather than other people? Right? Or why would you not hang around anyone at all? All of those are being driven by a feeling. You're choosing to hang around with Rob versus hang around with KC. It means you like Rob better than KC. Well, why do you like Rob better than KC? Oh, I like it when he does this. Oh, you like it. Why? Oh, it makes you feel something. So you do have feelings. Okay. Or I don't hang around with anybody. Well, why is that? Oh, because, I have bad experiences. Okay. So you are capable of experiencing fear. Okay. So start with whatever feelings you are capable of feeling. Start there. Start journaling. Start writing about it. Start talking about it with your therapist or your best friend. Start with whatever it is that you are feeling. Start with that. And also you got to get the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, because it's going to give you those questions, get into it, but start journaling on those feelings. It's not about allowing yourself to feel. You're already feeling. You're just maybe not conscious of the ones you are. So start in the present. And then work your way back a week, then work your way back a month, and then a year, and then 10 years. And then eventually you'll open up more and more to it, and you'll begin to have those feelings come up. But also you've got to get down into the core beliefs that you were taught to keep you shut down in the first place. And then Genevieve follows up with, my husband just retired from the Navy. He's trying to dig into his shit, but is struggling hard with exactly this. It's the exact same answer. And if they don't have the book, you got to get them the book, because it's going to walk them right into that very thing. All right, people, this has been lovely. Casey did not like my example where I said the person liked Rob more than they liked her. She finds that very difficult to believe. We all find it difficult to believe that anyone would not like Casey, but we can certainly understand why someone would like Rob very, very, very much. Rob, any thoughts on today?
Yeah, to paraphrase the famous quote about life, our show is like an onion, sometimes more than others, but you peel it off layer by layer, and sometimes you cry.
Oh, wow. It's like peeling the onion. But do you cry if you're not cutting the onion?
You got to cut the onion.
Well, I know, but look, if you just keep peeling the layers, if you were to not chop it up to put it like in your quesadilla, if you're not chopping it up, but you just have the long slices, you're just pulling off the layers and you're going to put that on your hamburger, do you still cry? I don't know. Onion.
Sometimes.
Do they still make you cry?
Sometimes they do. And stop fucking with my metaphor.
No, I'm playing with it. I'm expanding it. So in other words, even if we just think about peel back the layers, sometimes you're going to cry. But if you really cut into it, you're going to do some bawling.
Oh, yeah. And you got to.
You got it.
If you want the benefits.
That's it. And you got to do the cutting if you want the benefits. Even if you just pull it apart without the knife, You're going to cry.
Yep.
Boy, Rob, bang on as per usual. My fine people, it has been lovely having you here. We are moving on with our day, and I hope the rest of your day is beautiful. If you are on or near the water, I'm jealous. If you are up in the mountains, I am jealous. If you are in the city doing fun things, I am jealous. If you are journaling and doing your own work, I'm jealous because I have to go do hard work outside, and I don't want to. All right, fine people. This has been great. As usual, we love having you here, and please feel free to always send in your questions when we do these. The lightning rounds air on Sundays, and the counseling episodes air on Thursdays. It's been great having you here on behalf of KC and Rob the Rocket and Carly the Studio Cat. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.